something like that. Ooh, what about Bama?
Oh, that was delightful. I did watch the end of that. I did. So that was great.
Do you like hate watching? Are you like me? Do you like hate watching Alabama more, or hate watching the Cowboys more?
Well, the problem is the Cowboys are actually pretty good, so
they're not. Yeah, the Cowboys aren't cooperating yet, but
yeah.
We'll see.
I mean, something disastrous has to happen to them, and that Dak Pressman, the quarterback, he seems to be getting
Dak Pressman,
whatever his name.
You know that when Mark Davis is going over to Great Clips and getting his bowl cut, they're asking him about this. They're like, "Oh, what are you going to do? What do you think?" You never hear about his mom. You never hear anything about his mother at all. Like
Ann B. Davis, she was on the Brady Bunch, and she's dead.
I mean, Al Davis may as well have impregnated a water buffalo. It doesn't even exist. It's not even a thing.
All right, here we are.
All right, I'm ready.
We're all prepped, and I have some fun sound. If you want some fun sound,
I always love fun sound. Are you kidding?
Yeah. All right. It is the Brad and Britt cast, our first one for this week. Thank you for joining us. There's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on, and a lot of it is just plain stupid, almost too dumb to talk about. But if you may give me the honors, I have two words.
Okay.
Alan West. All right.
Alan West. All right.
Yeah. Alan West, of course, you remember, was a Florida politician for about a minute. I think he was elected to the House of Representatives from Florida, and he got whipped after one term because they suddenly figured out that even in red Florida, that he was too much of an asshole to get reelected. So he did what any intelligent, thoughtful man does after being defeated, after losing following one term in office, which is very often a signal. He moved to Texas and tried to rekindle his career. And I think he's the head of the Texas Republican Party. He wants to run, I think, for governor. And he's as pugnacious and obnoxious and self-assured and arrogant as is possible. And he is a lead dog in the anti-vax movement. I mean, he is right up there with every moronic right-wing talk show host, including the dead ones. Okay.
The dead ones.
So the result is he got it.
Yeah.
He's got it right now. And in the hospital, practically on a ventilator, he is still tweeting out bullshit and lies. And by the way, I think the new king of whataboutisms would be someone who may be closing in on being in their deathbed, not acknowledging that the fact that the reason they're there is solely because they didn't get vaccinated.
Right.
Saying nothing about vaccinations and how it would have been better if I would have been vaccinated, but playing the, vaccinations, but what about? And then you go, monoclonal antibodies, ivermectin, blah, blah, blah. And he is that guy. He is that guy. He is bragging from a hospital bed that he's taking hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. On and on it goes. He says, I've got a low-grade fever and light body aches. This was 2 days ago. Who knows what he's like right now?
Right.
And he said he had pneumonia caused by COVID, but said it was, quote, not serious. Guess what? No one knows that. There's no such thing as non-serious pneumonia caused by COVID last time I checked. That's like the Roach Motel. You can check in, but you never check out. Okay, or the Hotel California, take your pick. But this guy is absolutely the worst. He says, I can attest that after this experience, I'm even more dedicated to fighting against vaccine mandates. Well, sure. What would make you think that if you had been inadvertently willing to cave in as a sheep and get vaccinated a few weeks ago, that you would be better off today than you were 4 weeks ago? Okay. Instead of enriching the pockets of big pharma and corrupt bureaucrats and politicians, we should be advocating the monoclonal antibody infusion therapy. Now, as a good conservative asshole, even someone like him could understand that treatment, just on cost alone, I think is about $2,000. And how much is the vaccine? I think about $20. Okay. So just based on that, the vaccine is the greatest bargain that's ever come down the line. But I'm not talking about the money. He is just a prick. And we're on a podcast, aren't we, Britt?
We are.
I wouldn't lose any sleep if he died tomorrow.
I got to say, I don't know if the world would have actually lost one of the great ones if we do have if we do say goodbye to Alan West. I don't see that.
Yeah.
So at some point, even I hope that he gives somebody the password to his Twitter account or whatever, so that even if he dies,
that is important.
I hope when he dies, somebody still tweets out, even though I'm dead, I still think that blah 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 blah. And even in death, he's still doing tweets and shit like that. I think that would. Oh yes, John the Catholic calls him the next Herman Cain Award winner. Yeah, the Herman Cain Award goes to Alan West. Such a great opportunity for the state of Texas to have a wonderful governor like Alan West, but apparently God has intervened. So
God, don't you hate the boy? It's like when the greatest athletes die young or in their prime and we never get to see them. Ernie Davis from Syracuse, or Reggie, or what the guy from Maryland who was drafted by Len Bias, drafted by the Alan West. We hardly knew ye. We didn't get the opportunity to have you be the great governor that you would have been. All right, Alan West. We'll see you on the other side, and of course, as usual, we wish him the best.
Oh yeah, no, I hope he completely recovers. And
by the way, his wife is already out of the hospital.
Well,
she's already been released, so good for her.
Maybe there's a life insurance policy, and once he goes, she'll be able to spend some of the money on some fun stuff for herself. I don't know. What am I being too ugly? Am I being too controversial?
No, I actually like the way you're thinking there.
Maybe she'd cash in on his stupidity. Hey, is this too dumb for us to talk about? Eric Clapton again, being a complete idiot, reportedly donating more than $1,300 to an anti-vax band for their great work. I am so fucking over Eric Clapton. I honestly, I think it's time to go on blast on this guy. I think he's been an overrated guitarist for 50 years now. I think he's coasted off of the success of others. And I'm so tired of this guy. And he's being a complete and total douche nozzle in his remaining years here on Earth, Brad.
Am I supposed to disagree with any of that?
I don't know if you have anything.
Although I'm not quite sure that you get that much support for saying that he was an overrated guitarist. I think that's a little. I know he's no Eddie Vedder, who is.
No, well, Eddie Vedder's not the. Mike McCready, as you know, is the great guitarist for Pearl Jam, and he does not, at least not out there trying to kill people like this dickhead is. And also, he also is not trying to. He's not trying to steal his best friend's wife either. I like to throw that one in. Mike McCready not doing that.
I know. It's like saying that Hitler was a great tennis player, so let's not degrade his tennis ability. I know that. I get that.
Well, that first serve was pretty killer. I mean, you can't deny it. Come on.
Yeah.
He really got some nice speed on that one. Are we over bitching about
no, you have to wonder. You have to wonder what's really going on there. Because this just, this isn't I did the research. It isn't any of that. It's something. And I don't know whether his brain now really is completely fried, and it could be. This could be someone who really can't put two coherent thoughts together anymore, and is just saying things that make no sense, and we're all picking up on it and running with it. But it was one thing to rebel against authority in the 60s. All right. It really was. We're more than 50 years past that. And there are things to rebel against right now. This is not one of them. Okay. You cannot rebel against the vaccine. It doesn't care what you say. Not interested. It's not gonna listen to you and say, well, Eric Clapton has a good point. Okay, I won't go after that person. They're not vaccinated. That's not fair for me, Mr. Vaccine, to pick on unvaccinated people because Eric Clapton,
because the vaccine goes
into not getting it.
The vaccine goes, that Derek and the Dominoes album was pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to lay off of that guy. I'm not going to go after it. That's what the vaccine is thinking. That's one of my favorite albums.
Yeah. No, just move on. To see what interests me is, why doesn't someone of Eric Clapton's stature? This is what I want to see. I want to see someone of Eric Clapton's stature in the world of music go after him. I want a public smackdown. I want is Eric Clapton like the Trump of rock and roll? You can't say anything bad about him, or you'll lose your job. You won't get reelected. I mean, someone. That's what it's needed, don't you think?
One of the legendary performers. One of the big.
Right. No, you need Springsteen. Guys. Right. You need Springsteen or Eddie Vedder or
Mick Jagger. Mick Jagger. Somebody.
Right. So of course.
I'm tired of Eric Clapton. He was always a punk. He was such a bitch. Stop, Eric. You're being a dick.
Yeah.
That would be kind of a nice thing to hear.
We need.
That would be kind of a nice thing to say. The people,
because if everybody.
The people who were upset and about the vaccine and not getting approved from the FDA, now are they also going to be hesitant about the pill? How are those folks approaching the pill? As Merck has requested emergency use authorization for their experimental pill, they've gotten they had a really great study with this. You've seen the results of all this.
Well, though, this is simple. This is an easy one, because
walk me through it.
You first of all, you have to be a complete hypocrite, of course, as you're beginning to point out here.
Yes.
To say I'm not getting the vaccine, and then you list all the stupid reasons that very often include it was developed too fast.
Right.
It hasn't been proven enough. Okay. Right. Like, 3 billion people in the world taking it, not enough for you. Mm-hmm. There are things in it that we don't know are in it, and it's a plot to take over, all the crazy shit, right? And then, as more drugs come out to treat the disease after the fact that you've picked it up, most likely you're an unvaccinated person who picked it up. Yes, are you an idiot if you embrace, like Colonel West just did? We spoke of him a moment ago,
right?
Like Colonel West did. And by the way, he's probably way too late to even get this kind of new experimental drug soon to be approved for emergency use by Merck anyway. But yeah, you're a complete hypocrite, because there is no doubt that whatever kind of treatments after the fact are coming to market and going into hospitals and being made available, those are definitely younger kinds of drugs and treatments than the vaccine, which of course we don't even have to go into the fact, but of course we will here, that the vaccine really isn't just a year and a half or 20 months old. It's really 20 years old in terms of its technology, and it's just a tweaked version of what's been out there. But we don't want to lose anybody in the facts when they're trying to lie and make excuses for their own stupidity, which they don't acknowledge as stupid, because they think that they're doing everyone a favor by coming out against the vaccine. So your point, 100% right. If you were too stupid to get the vaccine, and you think that the same drug companies that are developing these drugs are in effect the same, Pfizer, Merck. I mean, these are all the giant pharmas that people are supposed to hate. Yes, you have nothing to say, except they'll say it, and they'll do it with a straight face, and they'll act as if they can differentiate between therapeutic drugs after you've caught it stupidly by not taking the vaccine and the vaccine itself. Yes, they will try to split those hairs, and it's irresponsible. It's stupid. It's Eric Clapton-ish. I don't know how else to describe it. So The answer is correct. Hypocrisy, idiocy, stupidity.
And even if they get emergency authorization, it'll be just like the vaccine. They don't have full approval from the FDA, and the same things that they said and cried about the vaccine will be in effect for a year or more.
Right. So if you're one of these, let's use the worst most of. If you're an elite anti-vaxxer, maybe even a public person who has not been vaccinated, and you actually do all the things that might make you eligible for the Merck emergency use authorization pill, and you realize it early enough, because you have to be treated early here, right, on this. Even if you are that person, if you don't run the other way from it, then you're a fraud. You're a phony, and you're stupid. But other than that, we wish you well with your, your recovery. But yeah,
everybody, and I think most of the medical experts have made this point. It's not. See, some people are saying, well, I can either take the vaccine, or I can take this handy dandy pill. The pill is not a substitute. You still. It's a great idea. They go hand in hand, and some people don't know anything. They go hand in hand with each other. They're very helpful in keeping you alive.
Well, see, Britt, I disagree with you, because you know what? I can either wear a seatbelt and be a sheep, or hang on, I could not wear a seatbelt and maybe get my chest crushed or my head go flying through the windshield up against it.
Right.
But the technology and the ability of surgeons to put your head back together after you've had it cracked open is so much better than it was 30 years ago. So why would you wear a seatbelt, Britt? Why would you give in to the jackal pack of authoritarians trying to make you wear that seatbelt? And you know what's bad about a seatbelt? I'll tell you why I hate seatbelts. That's why I don't wear them.
I want to hear this.
Because when you're wearing a seatbelt, it is impossible to reach around into the back seat. Because sometimes I'll have my box of tissues not on the passenger seat, but and I can't reach around. I can't reach around.
And you can put yourself in a very dangerous safety position.
That's right.
If you wear a seatbelt.
That's exact. It's kind of equivalent to masks. Masks just are so inconvenient.
Oh, so bad.
And my glasses fog up and all these things. So, you know what?
This is my favorite. That's one of my favorite things that you see at the stupid school board meetings and shit. Is the parents are like, "Oh, my kid's face broke out." Right? This is like a creepy.
Hey, your kid's 11. The kid's face is going to break out no matter what. Okay, he's gonna be a pizza face no matter whether he's wearing a mask or not. In fact, you might be lucky. The mask might cover up pizza face.
That was my favorite of the Batman villains, Pizza Face. He was really, a very deadly guy, kind of underrated, I got to tell you. Very, very difficult one. Since we met last time, this has been a few days ago and a few news cycles ago, but I still think it's worth recapping. The debt limit was increased, and it was raised, if you will. And Mitch McConnell put his head between his legs, and he got about 10 Republican senators to go ahead and.
Britt, you're not factually. You're not really factually correct here. They
Yes.
didn't really raise it. It's not really been raised, because remember, this block that they're doing is about the ability to vote on the debt increase. It's actually worse. It's actually worse. We're not even going to allow a vote on something that we say we're going to vote against when it gets to that next level, because these Senate rules are fucked up.
We're good until nonetheless, we're good until December. And Mitch McConnell thought he had delivered the goods for Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer delivered a speech on the United States Senate, kind of being very critical of the Republicans for being such big fat babies, and he hurts Mitch McConnell's feelings. And Mitch McConnell goes, "Fuck you! I'm never helping you out again. You're on your own in December." You've seen maybe the video over the weekend of Joe Manchin sitting behind Chuck Schumer. He puts his hand in his head, his head in his hands very dramatically, and then walks off because Chuck Schumer is just being completely inappropriate by stating, "I don't know the truth
Britt,
on the Senate floor." How do you feel about this, Brad?
I think they got about 36 hours mileage out of this one, Fox and the rest of them. Okay, they did. They did. That this is the worst breach of courtesy and protocol. And Chuck Schumer was so out of line in not being gracious and thankful for the colleague of his from Kentucky, his good friend from Kentucky, in doing the right thing, which, it's the right thing. Britt, I'm not going to kill you today, but 2 months from now, I'm coming to your house and I'm going to murder you. Just thank me. Thank me. I did a great thing for you. And I did a great thing for the country. But they turned this into, this is all about, and now we can do a little bit of fun and games in the world of media criticism here. This is all about the fake balance. This is all about, we have to show that we can be as petty as you think we were in going after Trump. It's just as bad. They're worse. These Democrats, they are worse. Look at them. They are so divided. They are so divided. Mitch McConnell, there's a pro. He can get 50 senators on his side to do the worst things for this country, to this country, in the direction of any legislation that is proposed. The whole goal, of course, is to destroy Joe Biden and the Joe Biden presidency. But the real story is it's the Democrats that are doing that, right? It's because we have 2 senators who won't go along for the ride. But it has nothing to do with the other 50. It's just the 2 Democrats. And they push it and they push it and they push it. And it's a great shtick from right-wing and Republican media and political vantage points that this is what's going on. It's those Democrats. They just don't know how to govern. They can't get anything passed. They are such losers. Joe Biden, FDR, LBJ. No. Yeah. How about Jimmy Carter on steroids? Okay. Disregarding the fact that Johnson and Roosevelt had just massive Democratic supermajority Congresses to get their programs passed. I mean, that's another favorite of mine. Here's a good. You don't hear this all that often, but here's one of the criticisms of the larger of the 2 spending proposals, the one that's in the several $1 trillion here or there. That, well, why don't you do it like FDR did? FDR didn't pass the New Deal all at once as just the New Deal, and it included all the pro and Social Security. He didn't roll it all into one. He passed it. Well, you can do that if you have 340 to 80 in the House of Representatives. You can do that. You can do that. But Biden can't do that because he has no margin for error in either house of the Congress, neither chamber. So it's a whole different story. But you know what that means? It means Joe Biden's a failure. Okay. So, they want to, I'm telling you, the media, I hate to use that phrase because that's what they do on Fox, the media, and they don't include themselves, right?
No, we're not part of that. Yeah.
But they want to write the obituary for Joe Biden so bad. It's just killing them. They want to get that done. They want to get that done. And the next thing you know, you have to go all in and say, well, you're actually paving the way for the return of Trump. You are making it possible for Trump to run out there and say, I got things done. Look at all the great things I did. And that's not relevant that he didn't do great. It's not important. But he'll lie and he'll say things.
That's interesting.
So
if you do a lot of
terrible.
awful, if you do a lot of awful things, is that better than doing a few good things? That would be I mean, Trump did a lot, but it was all bad. It was really, really shitty stuff. We're seeing, the remnants of it, this 4-year-long fart on the Supreme Court. It's just lingering, and it's going to linger forever. I hope, God bless Justice Kavanaugh. I hope you pull through, buddy. There's another one, man. I hope he makes it through. Is that really going to be your argument? Well, I may have sucked. I may have fucked up the country, but man, I got a lot of shit done. Well, okay, yeah, I guess
the first part of your sentence is not operative. Donald Trump isn't going to say I fucked up the country, but boy, I'm better than this guy. No, he says he's the greatest president in the history of the world.
That's the reality.
And
the reality is that you did a lot of bad shit, but yeah, there was a great quantity of what you did. Now, as far as the quality, it sucked ass. It was terrible. Yeah. And I also don't believe the other part of that is that, Biden hasn't done much. I mean, the packages so far have been huge. That one that they passed that really did a number on childhood poverty, for example, just in one fell swoop. To get that thing done, that was huge. Now there's a lot more that needs to be done. The Build Back Better bill and all these other things. Absolutely. I would say for sure. Right
now, Joe Biden has no record to run on unless he gets what's in the hopper right now passed. He cannot run around, and nobody running for re-election in Congress or as a senator can say, yeah, he got that $300 a month child tax credit thing passed right at the beginning. Isn't that great? Keep us in. It's not going to work. It's not enough. It's got to be go big. Now, yesterday,
why didn't that get passed? Why is the Build Back Better thing not being passed? It's because of Republican obstruction, right? That's the reason.
Well, no, it's because
in great measure.
Yes, but numerically, it's because you don't have unanimity in the Senate. You don't have 50 senators.
Sure, I know Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema are somehow gaining religion on the amount of money that's being spent. They don't.
I understand that, but it's almost now. You just have to pretend, at least for these months, that the Republican Party does not exist. They are a non-functional entity. Okay, they're this growth on your ass. Okay. That you try to ignore.
That exists.
But occasionally you do have to sit down, and it still hurts. And the problem is the growth might get bigger in about 14 months if things don't change, and we're all going to be in up Schitt's Creek here. I wrote something this morning.
Okay.
Because I've been noticing it maybe more than I should, although maybe everybody has caught on to this, and I'm just kind of catching up to it now. Because this is part of the big lie. It's part of what I call one of the girders holding up the big lie. And of course, the big lie still, for those of us who haven't been sucked in by Trump's version of what the big lie is, which is that he was denied the presidency on November 3rd, and then when Biden was sworn in because of cheating and lying and fraud in the election counting process, right? That's Trump's version of the big lie, okay? And so the phrase "the Russian hoax," okay?
Yeah,
the Russian hoax. It's used constantly now, Britt. It's used by every right-winger. It's used by every conservative. It's used by every talk show host. It's used by the Three Musketeers between 8 and 11 o'clock on Fox. It's just the Russian hoax, just like the water is wet. The water is wet, the Russian hoax, because the Russian hoax was Democratic overreach to a situation that was proven to be absolutely non-existent, right? Donald Trump had no relationship with Russia. He was exonerated. There was no collusion. There was no cooperation, right? There was no conspiracy. Robert Mueller went and bought Donald Trump 10 new suits of clothes and apologized for even bothering to investigate Donald Trump because it's the Russian hoax, right? That's what it's turned into these few years later. And they've said it over and over and over again. And it's just part of the conversation. And my contention is by using the lie about a Russian, because it wasn't a hoax, it was real. It was absolutely real.
Right.
And there are connections that are unmistakable, and Robert Mueller did point them out. Did he not go far enough and figure out a way to help Donald Trump get indicted or impeached right away over that? No, but that does not mean it was, quote, the Russia hoax. But as in everything in America, it has to be 3 words only. Okay. We can't go past a 3-word slogan. It's the Russia hoax. Okay. It's not the big Russia hoax. That would be 4. But I contend that helps them build this case now that Donald Trump is wholly, completely innocent of everything having to do with January 6th, contending that the election was held unfairly, and he was stabbed in the back, and Donald Trump's supporters were stabbed in the back by a cheating Joe Biden. It's the election hoax. The Russia hoax gives way to the election hoax. And Donald Trump is the victim. And this is how they're arguing this right now. This is where they're going.
Right.
And this is all an attempt to wear us down, to make us just give up and say, well, you know, the Russian hoax, yeah, that was bad, but he did cheat and try to overthrow the country on January 6th. But that, what I'm saying is the phrase the Russian hoax, I guarantee you, is now accepted by more people than we might want to think.
Because if you just repeated it, you don't even question it. It's a thing.
Right. And, you know, this is right out of the warnings of George Orwell. And he wrote this in 1944. Okay, so what's going on in 44? 44 is the year really that it was obvious we were going to win World War II. That was it. Hitler was on his way out the door by 1944, and George Orwell is writing his greatest things. So here's the quote. It's not long. It's just one sentence. Think of this. Hitler has been lying, right, around the world for quite long periods. At any rate, people can remain undisturbed by obvious lies, either because they simply forget what is said from day to day, or because they're under such a constant propaganda bombardment, Fox News, that they become anesthetized to the whole business. That's what they're doing. That's what this business is right now.
Jeez.
It's trying to just make you go, oh, yeah, I know. How did the Raiders do yesterday? That's more
not well.
That's
not
what
good.
this is.
Not good.
Okay, that's a bad example.
A very bad example. It's a very no, I think you're right. And to an extent, and it's much worse than this, but it's very similar to what they did in the 90s with Clinton, when they would just say Whitewater over and over again. And eventually it was like, do you know what happened with this Whitewater thing that you're
right.
It was bad. It was just bad. And he did something bad and it was bad. And they couldn't really tell you exactly what happened.
But I want you to think of the proportionality here.
Oh yeah. Much
in terms of its longevity and ultimate effect, because you know, Whitewater is a footnote in history, but Hitler, not a footnote in history. Trump is not a footnote in history.
I point out there's no statues of Hitler, so I don't even know who he is. If there's not a statue of the person, they're lost to history, and I think that's what we've established here in the United States.
Speaking of statues, where did I saw a story a few minutes ago. See if you can find this. I'll look forward to. Apparently, somebody stole a time capsule that was buried underneath a Robert E. Lee statue in Richmond. And when they yanked up the statue, it was put there like 1880, whenever the hell the statue went up.
Right.
And it was supposed to have all this shit that was trashing Lincoln, like a pictures of him dead in his coffin and things of that sort. And they can't find the time capsule. So
1887, I think, is when the statue went up.
Okay.
And I found an article. They've got theories on the missing time capsule. They're doing it from.
I love this. I love this one. This is
Virginia.
Great. This is great shit.
They probably got like him, like got Lincoln doing gay stuff and stuff like that. It's probably a time capsule.
Yeah.
Theories on missing Lee statue time capsule and more Virginia headlines. That's part of the intrigue that's going on in the capital of the great Commonwealth of Virginia.
You know what I think? I think there's a picture of Abraham Lincoln peeing on another man. Okay, there are pee pictures. There are pee pictures of Lincoln. Okay.
You know, it's been discussed with my new beard look that I should get the stovepipe hat and do the Lincoln thing for Halloween. It's a discussion that I think it's $38 for the costume on Amazon.
I got a better one for you. I got a cheaper one than that.
What's that?
I saw this the other day. Orange jumpsuit. Like prison jumpsuit.
Yeah.
I saw them on Amazon for like $25.
I'm a prisoner.
They're really cool. They're really cool looking. They're really sharp looking.
That's nice.
I think that's a good one. I think that might be a good one here. Although here's the funny thing. What about Halloween? Can the kids go out on Halloween? So every doctor or every expert is, they can do Halloween because it's outside as long as they wear a mask. My kid isn't going to wear a mask. Oh, wait a minute. Can they
wear a mask?
Wrong kind of mask. Yeah.
So you see, Fauci's trying to cancel Christmas, but this pagan holiday of Halloween, they want that to go on because they worship.
Yeah.
They don't want to salute Jesus, but they love. This was happening over the weekend. Margaret Hoover was on CNN slamming Republicans, saying Republicans need to get their heads out of the sand, and she slammed the GOP in denial about Trump running in 2024. Is there a lot of GOP denial about him running in 2024?
Yeah.
I think it's been.
Yeah, I think that's a classic Mediaite piece of shit, false premise, arguing against something that isn't true, said by someone who may have, in an offhanded way or maybe even out of context, said something and they turned it into an article because clearly, and by the way, you know, it's like, I'm going to marry the girl, and then, you know, on the wedding day, you don't show up at the wedding. It could be Trump. We don't know. He could be just doing all this to keep money flowing, because the minute he says, I'm not running, you know, it's completely over. We get that. We understand that. But you can't be counting on that as the scenario. And I think the more important statements about that issue of Trump running, in addition to, by the way, the just unspeakable rally that he had in Iowa on Saturday.
There's Chuck Grassley, by the way. We're showing on, if you're watching.
Chuck Grassley. Someone needs to put him out of his misery also.
I mean, this is a why is blank dead and why is Chuck Grassley still alive?
Why is Chuck Grassley alive? And you know, I measure the Chuck Grassley longevity by the fact that he and I both started in office in Iowa at whatever our highest level was the same month. Okay, because I started on the radio on KIOA in January of '81, and he was elected to the U.S. Senate in November of '80. So he started his term in January of '81.
He was swept in with the Reagan wave there in 1980. He was one of the Reagan foot soldiers guys.
Right. So at that time, he was 47 or 48 years old. Here it is 40 years later. So he's 48
years old, a young whippersnapper of 48.
He was a young 48, right. He was already 48, right. And so all these years later, he's out there, and he is just telling the biggest lies of all. That guy was lying over the weekend on behalf of Trump in ways that you almost couldn't believe the things that he was saying, or if he really believes them. And of course, again, we're way past do they know what they're saying is a lie, or do they really believe what they're saying? We're way past the point of caring about that, because it kind of doesn't matter anymore. We're past that, aren't we? Does it matter anymore?
Chuck Grassley was born in 1933. You're 100% right about the age. So he's one of the few senators or Americans remaining who does probably have some memories of the Great Depression. He probably does have some stuff that he remembers as a kid of what happened during the Great Depression. And you're 100% right. For him to be up there spreading this bullshit when I assume he knows better. I think he knows better, right? Do you think? Do you think,
Britt? I don't think you can do that because
Yeah.
you know once you say that about someone like him, then you go, well, you know, McConnell knows better. Fucking Lindsey Graham knows. You go down the whole list, and it doesn't matter. I mean, again, I hate to play the analogy card here, but there were probably a lot of people who were part of the Nazi Party in the 30s. They knew better.
Yeah.
But what did they do? They went along to get along.
Yeah.
That's what they did. It was the path of least resistance to stay in power and have an office and have a driver and have medals on their shoulders. And I don't see much of a difference now that these people have signed away any claim to legitimacy. And again, to watch them go around and be interviewed on television or anywhere else as if they didn't participate, at least viscerally, in what happened on January 6th, and then give it a stamp of approval by not convicting Trump and kicking him out. You've got nothing to say. You've got no legitimacy. I don't want to hear what you have to say about energy, about fixing roads. Fuck you. You want to overthrow the country.
Kevin McCarthy gave that really great speech condemning Trump afterwards. And then he went. I mean, he immediately flew down to Mar-a-Lago and kissed his ass.
So did McConnell. Fuck them all. They're full of shit. We're done with that. Yeah.
Speaking of which, Donald Trump sent a personalized video message to Ashley Babbitt's family on her birthday. We all must demand justice for Ashley as they continue. This may be, I don't know, is this the bigger lie that January 6th was overreached by the Capitol Police and was just another day of good tourists? Or would you consider that to be the bigger lie? But that one also has to be forwarded along with the big lie that the election was stolen from him.
Right. That has to be squared, the idea of overreach by the Capitol Police with the truth, which is that they underreached and were undermanned, and the information didn't flow correctly, and the right authorities in the right positions in the police at the Capitol, the police in the district, the police in Maryland, the police at the higher levels, the United States military, however the jurisdictions overlap in Washington, D.C., they underplayed what was going on. But apparently in this version of it, right, in Trump's version, they overdid it. They reacted too harshly to patriotic Americans who just wanted a tour of the Capitol, okay? It's so difficult to get into the Capitol and get on those tours, and they kind of accidentally stumbled in there. The shit happened, okay? Shit happened.
Shit happened.
It just did. Yeah.
This is something that came out last week. We didn't really highlight this. The majority of Trump voters believe it's time to split the country in two. This is a poll from the University of Virginia.
Don't worry, it already is. Relax. Don't have to do it. It's already done.
They surveyed 2,021 voters, half of which voted for Trump, half of which voted for Biden. The Republicans, by a 52% majority, said that they would like to secede, the red states, if you will, whatever the fuck that means, from the union. Only 41%, Brad, of the Democrats said the blue states should secede. And before we poo-poo this sort of stuff, I mean, have we in your lifetime ever been closer to something ridiculous like this being somewhat of reality?
Well, of course not. And as predictable as a majority of Republicans agreeing with the statement, 41% of Democrats is a lot too. That's not like that's nothing. Okay.
It's a bunch.
That's a lot. That's almost Trump's approval rate, 41, right? And it's higher than Biden's approval rate right now, right? Which is, in the 30s. But it's just at least a little bit different than it was in 1859 leading into 1860, in that you really could on a map draw a line. I guess that became sort of the Mason-Dixon line, right? Because that wasn't really an official part of anything, except it just became well known. But yeah, the southern states geographically said, we're out of here. In other words, there wasn't, New Hampshire didn't decide to join in, okay, and say, can we get out too? We're up here. Can you help us? Okay, so now 150 some years, 160 years later, the country is a lot more homogeneous.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand, okay, Mark Robinson, the word homogeneous, he's our lieutenant governor.
People around the country
it doesn't mean what you think it does.
People around the country may not be aware of what this gentleman has said recently. There, some remarks from this summer have come out about him in a pulpit in a church, calling homosexuality and transgenderism filth. And when he was questioned about this, he doubled and tripled down and continued to say that it is filth. And he's getting great brownie points from Republicans and from conservatives across the state and around the country.
He says he's been taken out of context.
Yeah, but he's also doubled and tripled. He's also doubled and tripled down on it and says he's proud of it and he owns the fuck out of it. So he, again, you should figure out what you want to say here.
Right. But back to my original point. And by the way, you have to give me points, but usually when this happens, I can't remember what I was talking about.
Yeah,
but I do remember what I was talking about.
You're back now. Splitting up the country.
In 1859, you could draw a line, southern states out, northern states not out. Now, every state, no matter how red or blue it is not nearly as unanimous in its views about all of these issues as the country was split pretty much along geographic lines on the one big issue, which was, now, am I allowed to say this? The Civil War was about slavery. Am I allowed to say that?
That is a radical outlier approach right there.
Right. So the only thing comparable today, and it isn't comparable, it's not close. Let's just pretend that states got so worked up, citizens got so worked up over abortion rights. They said, all right, our states, well, look at Texas. Texas is a state that is purple. It's trending blue. Democrats make up a huge swath of Texas, but the legislature is gerrymandered the fuck to favor Republicans so that no Democrat can get elected statewide. But clearly, it's fair to say that Texas is at minimum 45% Democratic, at minimum. So you can't split the country up based on state lines anymore. You can't do it. You can't get state. Now, does that mean, and as I try to talk this through, would Republican-dominated state legislatures where there's the big three, Republican House, Republican Senate,
Republican
veto-proof majorities, and a Republican governor, would they vote, of course, against the wishes of a large part of their state to leave the union? And this isn't going to happen. But again, the theoretical portion of the question that was asked in the survey, I accept. But from a practical standpoint, no, it's not going to happen. And, we have an interdependence in our country between the states that would make any kind of thinking about splitting up the country just disastrous. And so maybe this is an example, in a way, of a push-pull. This gets you starting to think about it. What about that? Might not be a bad idea.
It always
I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah.
It was always very easy to kind of dismiss this stuff as bullshit. But the stuff I've always said for the past couple of years, if there was Facebook in 1859 or 1860, what would it have looked like? If there was Twitter in 1859 or 1860, what might it have looked like? And would it look sort of like what we see today?
Right. But here's the thing. There wasn't back then. And it still happened.
Oh, of course.
Now there is.
Right.
And in a perverse way, that may make it more difficult for it to happen. Okay. I don't think it's as simple as all the Trump would have to do is send out a tweet when he becomes president in 2025 to say, all right, here are the following states. You are now leaving. I command it, blah, 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 blah. I'm dictator for life, blah, blah. It's just not going to be that simple.
I wonder if you had this poll question and you polled Republicans on this and you go, do you believe that the Civil War was a sad event in American history? What do you think the percentage of them say? No, I don't think that was a sad event. I think that was a great event of some wonderful Americans who stood up for what they believed in. You know, I wonder if something like that. It used to be
because
like,
there was that good movie all about it called A Mighty Wind, right?
that was so good. Loved it.
Yeah. Gone with the mighty wind. Right? Okay.
All right.
That should finish us off for the day.
That does empty the chamber. We'll see you tomorrow.